Hello again to the Venture Cafe podcast. Now we have the lovely Christa here. Now you've been here already 78 times to the Venture Cafe, so you're really one of the veterans here on this one. So how did you first learn about the Venture Cafe?
Well, actually, I'm fortunate to be a resident here. Mm-hmm. I have an office here, and I've been here for 5 years, and I just love it here. And so I think I go to as many venture cafes as I possibly can.
Oh wow, that's good. So you really enjoy it here, I guess.
I love it. Yes, absolutely.
So, what is it that you're here? Do you have your own startup or?
I have a company that actually works with startups.
Okay.
So I've been.
So you're contributing. You're helping the startup community.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So we help to internationalize startups, and that goes both ways. It works with mostly international startups that are looking to get exposed to our ecosystem here and learn entrepreneurship and learn how to access the markets here. So we teach them a lot of those soft skills, like how you talk to an investor, how do you talk to any U.S. audience, if you will.
So you're bringing them from around the world to Boston?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And very often the companies we work with are sponsored by international governments. It's governments that want to initiate an entrepreneurial culture in their respective regions. And so we, on the other hand here, help these companies. We have them typically here for 3, 4, 5 months, and they get space here at CSC, and then my team provides a lot of the hand-holding and day-to-day support, and really helping them succeed here in the U.S. market.
Awesome. Now, are you like a non-profit organization? Are you a for-profit organization?
It feels sometimes I'm a non-profit, but I am for-profit.
You
yes.
are for-profit.
Yeah. I'm not an org. We are basically an advisor firm. There are 4 of us, and we all have at least 20 plus years experience in different categories. So we have one specialist in life science and someone else more focused on the IT side, and we all have different skill sets. And so we form sort of deal teams, if you will, and we also pull in additional people other than the 4 of us. So we form deal teams, like if we work with a company and we know we need that kind of skill set, and depending on availability of our team, usually it's 2 or 3 of us that work on a specific project.
Now we have a lot of international visitors coming here to the Venture Cafe. What is you find often a very common misconception when international companies come here to Boston?
Well, I think I feel that all of them are surprised by the density of the activities, and I think mostly also with the openness and willingness to help other companies connect. I think in Europe and in some parts of Asia, the culture is more that you hold things to yourself, and you're not as willing to basically engage with strangers, if you will.
Right.
And I think that ease of communicating and helping is totally surprising to many.
Okay, so there is a certain sense of culture shock.
Absolutely, I would say I think this is certainly especially pronounced here at the Venture Cafe, but I think we see that in many other locations here throughout town, that there is this density and of smart people, and we had one comment from a company recently that came from Portugal, and he said, since I've been here for a week, I feel like a normal person. When I'm because everyone around me is an entrepreneur and everyone is helping each other. When I'm at home, I feel like I'm an alien.
Wow.
So it's really that kind of instant feeling that people feel that they belong if they're an entrepreneur. They are not an outcast, because in many cultures, if you fail, it's not accepted. It's not acceptable. So you become a social outcast, if you will. And so I think just the whole risk tolerance, failure acceptance is so much more normal here. And if you don't succeed, you just go and do something else.
Well, we call it pivot here.
That's right.
We don't fail, we pivot.
You pivot, exactly. It's just an experience. You add an experience to your resume.
We're not retreating, we're advancing in a new direction.
That's true, absolutely. And I think that's something that that international governments also want to change in their respective regions, and by you can't teach that on paper, you can't teach that in their locations, but by exposing companies to a different culture for pretty good chunk of time, that really makes quite a difference.
So it's really quite an experience here, and then I have to echo that really when foreign companies come here, it's a mind-opening
it's totally
doors, and
absolutely.
It's a different way of thinking, and that's very liberating.
Even if companies at the end of their stay decide this is not the best market for them, they still take home a lot of experiences.
Yes.
And so we're actually going to go on a roadshow next week where we're going to basically look at all the results of the companies that have come through with a very specific project in the last 3 years.
You said you bring companies from all over the world. Do you use a specific region, or it can be anybody?
Well, it very often it's determined by the sponsors. So in that particular case, we, along with CIC and my team as a partner, we ran a program sponsored by European Union for the Czech Republic, and so we had I think a total of 18 companies come through the last 3 years, and they all spent.
Can you name a few?
Well, one of them that's actually, some of them end up opening offices here because they just fall in love here. So one that was just here again last week is called Kiwi Digital. Kiwi Digital, they have a tablet for the elder people, for people that didn't really enter the computer age.
Wasn't it called Oscar?
It's Oscar, that's
Yes.
right, exactly, yes, absolutely. So the project is Oscar, but the company is called Kiwi Digital.
Ah, okay.
So yes,
I remember
absolutely,
them.
so Oscar, and they are really taking off. They're doing quite well, and so that's one example of a company that really took full advantage of their stay here. We had another company here, Metacell, that has the technology to isolate circulating tumor cells, and they are scientists basically. They just wanted to make sure that their technology finds a home somewhere. By coming here, they were so overwhelmed by the opportunities, and every day they were like somewhere, and now they have several very serious conversations with some of the major drug development companies and big pharma, global big pharma, to basically license the technology.
Now, not everybody who's listening in here is an international company. That's interesting. I think, what would you tell American companies that looking to internationalize themselves, that want to be broader, go to the European Union or in other countries?
Well, I think that totally applies as well. So I think any company that is starting out needs to think beyond their immediate footprint early on, and you need to set yourself up with a global future in mind.
Absolutely.
Yes, you have a bigger market in the United States to play with, but I think you still need to think, how does your product apply, and how do you kind of not make any mistakes early on, so that you can't, have your product go global. And so we do also have a platform for China, for example. So we help companies from Europe and the United States that want to expand and scale up in China to help those as well. We actually have a team of 24 people in China, and we also have access to funding sources, and we regularly take companies that are ready for it. It's not for everyone, but companies that are ready for it to look into the greater China market.
Now, if a company wants to work with you, you said they typically have sponsors. Is that a requirement for them to work with you?
Not at all. It is just that we have found that sometimes governments find us easier than individual companies, especially when they're early stage. So we have programs with several countries in Europe, but by no means we're not discriminating against individual companies.
Right.
We also work with a number of Canadian companies, for example, that used to come through a sponsored program and then stayed on and do things on their own. In addition, we work with a company from Belgium, for example, that also started out sponsored by a government and now is ready to do things on their own. And they are engaging with us, not such in a long-term project, but they actually also opened up an office here at CIC, one of those international flex programs. And then they come through every couple of months, and we help them with very specific projects.
Are you, asked bluntly, are you affordable for a startup company? Because they're usually cash strapped.
That's true, and I have to say that we are very, very flexible. I think that's definitely, of our feature, that we're very, very flexible. We are totally cognizant that we are not charging exorbitant, fees. For us, it's more the fun also to help companies succeed. But we do need to get some compensation in order to keep everyone honest.
So you said you're a for-profit organization,
and we are for-profit, so we need to have some fair compensation. But in some rare occasions, we do take equity. I do have a few clients that are basically work on an equity basis, but that's not the primary business model. The business model is for compensation.
Right. So now, if company is listening in from abroad here, Christa, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I think certainly if they talk to anyone here at CIC, they will refer them to, hopefully, to us. We do a lot of projects combined, but they can also find it. We have a website called bostonlanding.us that describes in great detail our programs. I also have a MassGlobal website, and we have also, so if they Google my name, they come very quickly to.
Well, so your name is
Christa Bleyleben.
Bleyleben, so Bleyleben.
Correct, yes. You find us pretty quickly, but I would say the bostonlanding.us website is probably the one that is
and
the
then there's the contact
remember.
Information.
Absolutely.
How to get a hold of.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for being on our podcast, and hopefully your 78 will go up further, and you will keep coming here and help a lot of more companies in their prosperity.
Great, thanks. It's been a pleasure.